Hey guys, welcome back to Judo Highlights. So the Olympics is over, and that means we're going to have a new set of rules coming soon. There might be big changes, there might be small changes. I wanted to make a video about what kind of changes I would like to see. And I also reached out on Instagram to a couple of high-level judoka, some who competed at the Olympics. It's quite obvious at the moment that a lot of people are frustrated. People find themselves playing a game of shido instead of actually doing judo. So the big question is, how can we address that issue? Now, also, I have heard a rumor that there's going to be a new rule introduced, and it's going to be a new kind of score if people get thrown and they land on their front. Now, it's an interesting idea. Obviously, we have the 90-degree rule where we judge whether it is a wazari or not, and that would kind of bridge that gap. So you could say, hey, it's a wazari from here, and then after the 90 degrees, anywhere onto the belly is this different kind of score. Now, what are they going to call it? I have no idea. But I think there would be a lot of backlash if they didn't call it a U-call or a koka. But anyway, just a rumor, just from one person. I haven't heard it from multiple people, so it could be wrong. They could have ditched the idea. Who knows? But anyway, now I just want to talk about what I think should change. And I do think there needs to be some serious changes made. Ono Shohei, he even went out in an interview. There was a Japanese website that reported on what he said, and he said, we need to get back to our original roots and just throw each other. We're not here to play a game. People want to see us throw people, hold people down, choke people. This is what judo is all about, and we need to make it as much about that as possible. So, let me talk about what I think should change. And some of these things I think they can bring in later. Obviously, they've already made their decisions, I think. I think we'll see a new rule set pretty soon. But some of my suggestions, I think, is just a quality of life kind of thing. I think it would improve the viewing experience. And some of these things I've taken from other sports. So the first one is, a lot of the time you'll see kind of some controversy on the tatami. Someone gets thrown and they don't think it's a score, and the referee will say, hey, that's a wazari, or hey, that's an ippon. I think we should give power to the coaches and also the judoka on the tatami. I think each match, one time, the judoka should be able to say, hey, I want to go to the video, I want to have a look and see if it is a score. So this idea, it comes from tennis, but it just kind of takes the power out of the referee's hands and puts it in the judoka's hands, and then everyone can see. It's a little bit exciting. We can watch the replay all together and then really judge whether it was a score or not. It also gives the IJF an opportunity to kind of talk about the details, the changes that have been made in the rules. This kind of ties into my second point, but every 4 years we're changing the rules. Sometimes we change them mid-cycle, just ever so slightly. And a lot of people, they don't catch up. There's only a small population of people who watch judo who actually follow along and understand the rules. And so the IJF really needs to kind of drill it into people exactly what the new scores are. And I think this would be a good opportunity to do that, to watch a replay. The commentators, of course, they can do a great job here in educating people. And one other thing I think should happen is, just kind of the bottom of the screen, or whenever a contest is finished and judoka are walking to or from the mat, it would just be really nice to have some kind of visual explanation of the rules on the screen, so we can kind of constantly educate people. Because in Japan it was so bad. On Twitter, going to the dojo, you have these senseis who watch judo all the time in Japan, and then the rules are a little bit different. And then when the Olympics come around, they say, hey, that's not a wazari, hey, that's not a shido, that should be a shido. And it's a little bit frustrating because they're just not educated, and it's disappointing because they're so passionate about judo, but they just don't have the time to read up on the rules and catch up. So those 2 points, big points for me. Educating people, that's a must. And then number 2, just allowing the judoka to not be soured, if they want to see the video, let them see the video, give them one opportunity per match, and I think that would be really exciting if we could kind of watch it back and see if it was a score or not. Some of the worst moments in judo is when the judoka is unhappy with the ref and what kind of a call they've given. So we really need to reduce these kinds of calls. Now, one other change that I would like to happen is give more power to the referees. And that sounds a bit crazy, but hear me out. So the referee on the tatami, they are very experienced. They get evaluated. They have a ranking list. And the referees at the Olympics were the best of the best. Now, some people will disagree with that, but there is a problem here, and it's a problem in the process, in the structure, the system of it all. So we have these things now, and they are video referees, and the video referees, they are following the rules to a T because it is their job. Now the referee in the middle of the tatami, you can see they have an earpiece, and so they can hear things from the video referees. Now what I wonder is what kind of a power structure is in play here. Do the video referees have more power than the referees on the tatami, or is it the other way around? Now just from watching judo, I definitely feel the video referees are the ones with the power, but I think we should give it back to the referees on the tatami and let them interpret the match a little bit more and have a bit more flexibility. So for example, the video referee, they can see things from multiple angles and they're looking at all the tiny details. And what we really don't like at the moment is when people get a shido, and these shidos are really important. There's only 3 of them. 3, you're gone. And the video referees are pointing out these tiny, tiny details. Whereas if it was just only the referee in the middle of the mat, they would miss some things, and I think we would be happy if people could get away with certain things. We all know people are putting their thumbs in the sleeve of the judo gi, but no one's complaining about it, because if you put your thumb in the judo gi and then you attack, and you get a score, it's great, everyone loves it. So in my opinion, I think the video referee should almost be blind. They should be doing something else until called upon. Maybe they should be monitoring several different tatamis. At the Olympics we had 2, sometimes there are 3, or Tokyo Grand Slam for example, there are 4 tatamis going on at the same time. They should just be there waiting until called upon by the referee. And at that point, we can use their different angles and we can really determine exactly what the referee wants to find out. Just as an example, in this next clip here, Cass vs. Arbuzov, Cass, he goes in for a Yagura Nage, he executes it really well, sets up his hands in a great position, picks him up. Now, whether he gets a score here, it's hard to see with this camera angle, but he actually gets a 3rd shido for grabbing the pants. And so Cass loses this match, but the reason he loses it is because he was trying to do judo. I mean, this is a beautiful technique, this is really nice to see. Why should he get penalized for it? And if this was in the dojo, everyone would be like, yeah, that's great, nice technique, well done. But here on the mat, when he's trying to show his judo, he gets penalized for it. So whatever happens, I think it really needs to promote positive judo. We need the guys to come out there and want to throw each other. This is just a really bad example of the rules working in the wrong way. Now the suggestion I just gave of having the judoka being able to utilize the video referee if they want. If Arbuzov in this situation thought, hey, I feel like he grabbed below my belt, he goes to the video referee and then they look at it and say, hey, that's a 3rd shido. It could end up that every match, every judoka is using that one video referee call just to see if there was anything, that could kind of save them. I don't know, maybe it's not a good idea, but I definitely think in this example here with Cass, we should just have the video referees not in the situation and let the referee decide if what they saw was good judo or not. My next suggestion, and this is probably my biggest pet peeve, is dropping down, especially false attacks. It's not good. It's not good at all. Some of the Olympic matches in particular were won in this way. Someone would get an early wazari and then they would just use the clock well, drop when they needed to, and I mean they would just burn the clock out with a wazari ahead, and it was just such a horrible viewing experience. So I've thought about this one a lot, and I think if you do a false attack or you drop down and you get a shido, when you get a shido for a false attack, 30 seconds should be added to the clock. Personally, I think this is a great idea. It would stop people getting a wazari ahead and then just burning the clock out. They would have to stand with their opponent, stand and defend the onslaught for the remaining time. Or, best case scenario, they get a wazari and then they say, okay, I got to get another one. And they go in and they get that other wazari and then they win and everyone loves it, everyone's happy, and the ref is not involved. I think this is what we want to see. The next change I would like to see is about the gripping. And so there were a couple of situations where people would break grips and get shidos for it. Now, I did hear from someone that some players, when they feel a little bit of tension on the sleeve, they would just let it go and pretend that the other person broke it off, and then they would start signaling to the ref. Now, why do we have these shidos around gripping? It's because people play the shido game. And this is kind of an outrageous idea, but what if there were no shidos for gripping? All of a sudden, people would stop playing this shido game because there would be no way to win or lose by shidos for gripping. So, one example I saw during the Paris Olympics, it was Teddy Riner, one of his earlier contests, I think it was maybe his first match. He had a dominant grip, and then he just stood there, kind of kicking the legs for 2 minutes. It was 2 minutes. I couldn't believe the referee didn't stop it earlier and give both guys a passivity warning. Now, if we are going to have shidos for gripping or passivity, I think we should give a shido to the person who has the dominant grip but doesn't do anything. So in that instance, Teddy Riner, he's got that sleeve. It's left versus right. His opponent doesn't have the sleeve. Teddy, you've got two hands on your opponent. Why are you standing there for 2 minutes and not doing anything? So in these situations, it's just like randori. The person with the dominant grips, they've got to throw. They've got to be careful of getting countered. That's a possibility. The person who is defending, they have to defend the throws. If they drop down to the ground, whoa, that's embarrassing. I went down to the ground. I gave up. Okay, get a shido for that. You can go in for a false attack. Okay, you're going to get a shido for that. Don't do it again next time. I'm not sure exactly what the rules would look like, especially with the gripping rules. I think abolishing all the gripping rules is probably going to be some problems that happens there. But less rules is better, less referee interference is better, and we need some sort of rules that kind of promote situations where people can throw each other. Now I've just got 3 more points to talk about, and the last one's probably the most ridiculous, but I'll put it out there. The first one is regarding Ne-waza. And in this situation, I think we should give the power to the judoka. If the judoka initiates the Ne-waza, I think the referee should just give him 30 seconds. See what he does. If that judoka doesn't want to go into the Ne-waza, okay, call the mate. But there's been a lot of situations where a judoka, he'll initiate the Ne-waza, and then it's mate. And it's like, well, what's going on here? He was actively trying to do something. So we need to stop these mates that happen as soon as people go down to the ground. Let them see if they want to do something. Let them stand up by themselves. Let the judoka control the pace of the fight. The next one is head diving. Now this rule is absolutely ridiculous. I've talked about it many times before. There are so many examples of people's hair touching the tatami and they get hansokumake. This is stupid. The way to fix this is you just make it illegal at the junior, cadet, any level below the IJF tour. Just make it illegal to head dive. It's like that in Japan. In fact, there are so many rules where, you're not allowed to do arm bars until you're a high school student in Japan. So these kind of rules, they teach people how to do proper judo, make it illegal for the young generation, and then when they get into the seniors, they've probably developed a habit of not putting their heads on the mat. And those who have, they're probably doing it in a way that they're used to, they've done before. Of all my years of watching the IJF tour, I've never seen a neck injury from someone putting their own head on the mat, executing their own throw. Actually, the worst one I saw was this one, Gaba versus Hashimoto. Hashimoto here defending. So I think in the situation where you are defending a throw, you shouldn't be able to put your head in a dangerous position. But if you are executing a throw, no problems. Now my last suggestion, and this is probably a controversial one, but I think we can bring it back. Bring back leg grabs in some capacity. There's a major kind of conspiracy in judo, and that's that they took out the leg grabs to satisfy the Japanese judoka. That is not the case at all. Also, there's the argument that wrestlers were coming into judo and were taking all the medals. This is also false. The only reason they took out the leg grabs is to differentiate it from wrestling so they could have 2 separate, unique sports in the Olympics. Now, of course, there is a safety issue with leg grabs, and so I think there should be some clear criteria as to when and what kind of techniques we should allow. So, for example, a lot of the leg techniques that we actually have in judo that have a technique name, I think we should allow these in some capacity. Now, what I suggest is something that they added to rugby many years ago. This was a big rule change in rugby. And so in rugby, obviously you're allowed to tackle, grab the legs, but you're not allowed to lift someone's legs above their head, and doing so would kind of dump people onto their heads, which is incredibly dangerous. So I think we should allow a similar kind of rule in judo. For example, I want to see kochigari to ankle picks. I think that is a great technique, very safe, and we should see more of it. I want to see morotegari. I think we can do that technique in judo. Why not? I think countering and uchimata with sukuinage can be a little dangerous, but there may be a way to kind of secure the leg and then safely kind of take someone down. That's a possibility. I think we can work around it, and I think judo would improve in popularity if we started to allow leg grabs again. Some other techniques, maybe the sode into the leg grab, I'm not too sure about that one. Maybe they just make a rule where if you execute any kind of ne-waza technique that you're not allowed to grab the leg. But anyway, I think we're just kind of dreaming a little bit here, deep into the video. Let me know what you guys think. I definitely think we need to educate the viewers more. We need to take power out of the video referees, put it back into the hands of the referees, but at the same time, abolishing a lot of kind of small, intricate little rules, giving more situations and opportunities to the judoka to throw each other, and building a shido kind of rule base around that. Let's get rid of the head diving rule. It's a little bit silly. And finally, let's bring leg grabs back. I think we can do it. We can do it safely. We're just got to be careful about how we do it. That's it from me, guys. Sorry about the long video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.